Well, yesterday I gave a little bit of a rebuttal to a good friend of the channel, someone I do a lot of work with, especially on Friday nights. Frank Analysis. Okay? And I gave the rebuttal to the whole statues. I kind of give all my thoughts on that video. I'm not going to repeat myself. I will add one thing, too, though, about the whole statue argument. And that is that I did focus a lot just on statues. Mainly because that's what was predominantly mentioned in his video, was about statues. However, the argument is that we just shouldn't glorify particular people in general. At the same time, there's more than one way to glorify someone without erecting a statue to them. A painting, a carving, naming streets after them. Now, he did kind of mention a lot of those things, but again, understand, statues come first, then the rest of it's going to come, because they're not going to be happy as long as these people are being honored in any way, shape, or form. And then the comparison was brought up. Apparently Matt Schlapp said that, they're coming for Jesus. And the take was that, no. Why would anybody take Jesus down? Jesus isn't a sign of racism. Jesus isn't a sign of, prejudice and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fair point. Here's the problem. You're going on the perception that there's only one group of pissed off people in the country. Now, sure, there's one that we're hearing the most from right now. There's one that's, definitely got a bone to pick. And rightfully so, but by no means does that mean they will for now and forever be the only group of people. Now, again, I expressed yesterday, if you don't want a statue in your town, the way you go about that is you take it up with City Hall and you take the monument or statue down if you don't want it there, okay? And if you can get the consensus opinion to remove it, go right ahead. Again, that would be actually practicing your community direct democracy that a lot of folks have said is one of the ways we can replace the police. And if you can't even practice it here, you can't expect me to believe you'd ever be able to really practice it and put it into true effect for it to operate like the utopia it's supposed to be by actually replacing the police. So again, that's the way you should get rid of it here. And if one group decides to put it up and the next generation decides to take it down, that's fine too. There's a lawful way to do it. But here's the other thing that's not right. It's not right for people who don't live inside that town to decide what stays and what goes. It should be up to the people of that town, point blank. However, to say that no one's going to take down Jesus, well, no, I don't know that the Black Lives Matter protest is going to take down Jesus. You could be 100% absolutely correct on that. But how about the group of atheists out there who feel an oppression? See, when you allow unruly protesters to just rip down George Washington's statue, even though I don't know that it necessarily had as much meaning in Washington state as it might somewhere, I don't know, like Virginia. If you were to try to go rip one down in Virginia, there might be something there where a lot of people, because of the history of Washington in Virginia, didn't want to see it go. So it shouldn't be up to any one person to just come in and decide. When you condone that and you allow it to happen, now let me tell you what you open that opportunity for at some point down the road. People could come in and rip down a statue of Jesus, or here's the other thing, rip down and tear down a church because they view it as a sign of the Christian oppression of their rights or a sign of hate. And so we kind of got into a little back and forth on Twitter about that yesterday. Franco kind of responded and said that, hey, when I brought up the Crusades, for example, I said, here's why. I said, look what happened during the Crusades. And remember, the Crusades, some estimate 1 million people died. I've seen estimates as high as 9 million died during the Crusades. Okay? And so Franco said, well, that's not Jesus. That's what the churches did who misrepresented his message. So, who are they carrying the banner of? Now remember, I'm a Christian myself. I'm not a Bible thumper though, and I'm not an utterly religious type of person. So don't get me wrong here. But nonetheless, they were carrying the banner of Jesus. They were supposed to be warriors of God, right? That was their whole premise. They're soldiers of the church, pretty much. Okay? And you will conform or you will die, pretty much, okay? That was the Crusades. And they carried the banner of Jesus. And so by you saying that because they misrepresented Jesus' message, even though they were carrying the banner of Jesus, that can't be viewed that way, then you would have to say the same thing about what? The swastika. Because let's think about it. The Nazi swastika that everyone associates as an utter sign of hate was around long before Hitler, the Third Reich, or the Nazis. And it was not considered at that point a sign of hate. Yet because Hitler put it on a flag and used it as a symbol for his white supremacist country, for the Aryans, okay, when he used that symbolism, guess what? Boom! There you go. End of story. The rest is history. Okay? It is considered a sign of hate. And so, therefore, people, even though they weren't around during the Crusades, if they don't believe in Jesus, could look at that as an ancient sign of oppression that tried to rule the world at one point. Some other people could look at it different ways too. More modern folks who are just simply atheist look at the fact that there is a Christian religious oppression of their freedoms within this country. One of the first things that's going to come up as a topic would be abortion, because who are some of the biggest opponents to the concept of abortion? Christians. Religious Christians who believe that that poor baby's life, no matter how it was conceived, should be protected. And there is a debate to be had to a degree there, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The point is, the religious folk are the ones saying we don't agree with this. Now, sure, there are probably some who are not religious that don't agree with it either, but without a doubt, that is one of the biggest opponents to the concept of abortion, right? And of course, the Republicans love to play up to the religious people. So what do they oppose? So again, you've got people who don't believe in Jesus and are perfectly fine with abortion saying, I've got a group of folks out here who are trying to oppress my right to choose because of their religion. Okay? You've also had instances where they've tried to stop gay marriage. Okay? Remember that whole thing? Marriage in the Bible, it says it's supposed to be between a man and a woman. Okay? That whole argument. So you've got a lot of other people out there that are going to say, no, Christians have been trying to oppress us. They don't want to, bake us a wedding cake. They don't want us to get married. They'll refuse to marry us in a church. All these different things. So yes, you've got plenty of ammunition to come out and talk about how bad the institution of Christianity is and the religion of Christianity is, because it oppresses the rights of other people who do not follow those religions. Even in the fact that it's in the Pledge of Allegiance, for God's sakes, that one nation under God, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, people have been wanting that out for a long time, by the way. They want that gone, because what if I don't believe there's a God? Then I don't want that to be in my Pledge of Allegiance. And so, in other words, when you condone people because they're mad to just come in and rip it down instead of going about this lawfully and having City Hall take it down if that's what the town really wanted, because remember, I got a feeling not all these people involved live in that town. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if the people in the town want it gone, that's one thing. But when you just allow people to come in and rip it down without a consensus of everyone who lives there, if they were to choose to vote at City Hall or whatever, give their yay or their nay, okay, then you're opening the door for another group of people like the ones I just named to come in eventually and start tearing down either a Jesus statue or and forget the statue. Here's the one that I'm betting on. they'll tear a church down. They'll start tearing the actual buildings down. Why? Because that's where all the Christians congregate, so it's a building of oppression. That's what I'm waiting on. Screw the statue. That's going to be a given. No, the rest of it's going to be attacked too. And that's another reason why I said that it's a slippery slope. So the thing that you don't see how the attack at Jesus is coming, you basically said that anything that has contributed to an oppression that affects people today is a problem and cannot be glorified. By that definition, you then have to put that same criticism, even if you are a Christian, on Christianity, because the Christian religion affects a lot of the culture right here. And for people who live here and do not wish to follow the Christian religion and do not wish to live by the Bible, they're going to say you're pushing a belief off on me that I don't want. And you're trying to make me live by your set of rules that come from a holy book that I don't believe in and do not adhere to, and it's been oppressing me for years, telling me that I can't choose whether I want to have a baby or not. All these things are going to come out, and once, again, this is why I said there's always going to be a next time. There's always a next time here. If you please one group of people, somebody else is then going to want their concerns addressed. That's why I said yesterday, we take down the ones that were slave owners. Now we're going to start having to look at the ones who might have done some things with women that certain women wouldn't appreciate. Then we got to start looking at people like the hero of the left, FDR, who started the creation of dropping bombs on Japan, which killed how many people in those nuclear explosions? Okay. Then you've got to look at the fact that FDR also put Japanese people into internment camps, and the Japanese Americans may not even want the left saying how they wish that the party would be more like him because he locked their ancestors up. You start down this path because no one is perfect. And just like with Jesus, if you allow people to not follow rule of law to remove these statues, or to remove a monument, or to remove a street name, if they just come in and rip it down and that's all they have to do, and they leave it at that, then guess what? Guess what? They're going to eventually have another group, once their issues were resolved, that says, well, you know what? They got what they want. Now it's time I get what I want, and I'm tired of this Christian religion oppression of my beliefs and my rights in this country because I'm not a damn Christian and I don't want to adhere to it. And they're going to want their rights addressed. It's only a matter of time before a pissed off group of people come after that because they feel the same way. Yeah, it might not be affecting them to the same degree as like race affects people in this country, but that does not matter. It's not going to change the fact that eventually this will not happen. So again, when it happens, you have to enforce law to the sense that say, okay, look, you don't want this here. There's a way to go about it. Do it the right way. When you set this precedent that it's okay to just come in and rip property down, you then set the precedent that's okay to do that for any issue down the line that a group of people deem a problem for whatever reason. And there's going to be a obvious straight line connection from what we're seeing right now in slavery to what my point was right there about the whole Jesus statue in the churches, because there's been an oppression going all the way back to the Crusades where the Christians push their agenda on people who are not Christians, right? Okay. And they're going to say there's supposed to be freedom of religion in this country. So why don't we just delete all religious institutions and you can worship from home? That's what they'll be calling for. They're basically saying, we don't like all these church gatherings. We don't like the fact that there's people in these churches that come to our house and knock on the doors and pass out church tracts. And I got the Jehovah's Witness banging on my door trying to witness to me. I don't like that. I don't like going to the store or seeing these signs, you know, where people are yelling at me saying that Jesus is coming and I better repent or I'm going to hell and blah. So why don't we just eliminate all these buildings? And if you're really that devout about your religion, You can sit at home and pray and worship on Sunday morning, and you don't have to go to a church, and I don't have to look at that church so it doesn't offend me and remind me of the oppression that I once had to face because of your religion. There you go. That's exactly the case going to be made. So again, if you don't put a stance on people following the law, you're opening the door for them to do this again when there's another group that has another gripe. And that's exactly why it's going to be a slippery slope. So, as my title of this video is going to say, first George Washington and then Jesus.